Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Beecroft, and I am the chapter president at the University of Minnesota right now. Just a little background on me. I was the past recruitment and membership chairman for my chapter and then became president. I have not attended a convention yet, so this will be the first convention that I will attend along with all of you. So very exciting. And I did attend the province meeting last year for my chapter, but obviously now they're known as I want to say the province regional leadership meetings. So that is a little background on me. Let me grab to the next slide here. So what does it mean to be a delegate? So coming to convention, some of you may be chapter president, some of you may be filling in for your chapter president as a delegate, but you are really being that voice of your chapter and the voice of everyone. So making sure you all are educated on the changes that are going to be being voted on, as well as just all that goes on at convention is really important to know. So just make sure you're getting yourself informed. I know a lot of chapter presidents were sent packets about what the changes will look like and making sure you guys are looking at that. And if you don't have those packets, getting them from your chapter presidents if you are not a chapter president. Make sure your chapter is informed as well, whether that is, since the year is done, sending out emails. I know I presented a PowerPoint to my chapter that I sent out to some of you via Facebook, and that really helped them kind of understand what we're changing from our past system to what maybe will be in the proposed system if it does pass. So you're representing your entire chapter during this convention. So just make sure you're really conveying the vote of your chapter correctly, and you're getting educated as far as not only as representing them as the delegate, but each individual member, and making sure that you're bringing their concerns or questions either to this presentation or just to anything at convention. Things to pack and things to do. So make sure you bring that packet, as I mentioned, that should have been sent to all the chapter presidents. Make sure you bring a notebook. I remember when I went to the regional leadership meeting, that was very useful to me. It was really helpful to have a way of taking notes to bring back to my CC meetings as well as to other girls in the chapter, other positions. Make sure you're also wearing comfortable shoes. I know some dinners or events are fancier, but during the day, not tennis shoes, but something that is comfortable, such as flats. Make sure you're bringing that and wearing that because it's going to be hard to walk between the buildings and you're very busy all day. Of course, a water bottle is always recommended as well. And then if you're doing the yoga event in the morning, definitely bring your yoga outfit for that. I believe that Libby's friend is doing those 2 yoga classes, which is really a great opportunity to get to know your sisters more. 2 white outfits. I believe there is 2 different occasions that you need to wear your outfit, so having 2 is definitely advised. And then cocktail dresses. Make sure you're looking at the convention Pinterest page. I know I've been looking at that and really keeping the girls that are coming with me to convention updated on that. Spending money, I know a lot of girls that went to convention the past years in my chapter, they all came back with wonderful Kappa apparel, which I know we all get sucked into with having so much Kappa apparel, but just make sure you're bringing that. Snacks, if you want snacks throughout the day, you are fed the 3 meals a day, but just making sure you're bringing things such as apples or nuts or anything that you would need during the day that's easy to pack. I would definitely advise bringing as well. And then there is going to be a guidebook app if you search in the iTunes store. It's Cap Gamma, just search that. It's not quite up and running yet, but it will be, so make sure you have that ready for convention as well.
We have 2 questions before we head further. Do we have to register for the yoga class? Yes, you can register when you check in at convention. So there will be more information once you get there. So don't worry if you haven't registered yet. And the convention Pinterest page, Maggie, can you tell us how you found it?
The convention Pinterest page, I went to the Women Who Kappa site, and I know it had, or I'm sorry, not the Women Who Kappa site, the Kappa convention page. So if you go on to capgamma.org and you go to events and you click on convention and then additional information, it'll take you to the convention page that is very well done. I think it looks great this year, and it'll show you little things like what to wear, and then on the side of it, you can connect with the Pinterest page and add it to your boards as well. So it's really useful, and it really shows kind of what other girls will be wearing, because I know that's always something I struggle with, like, oh, what will everyone else be wearing, and I want to make sure that I'm looking appropriate as well. So definitely a great way to kind of figure out
I'm
how
going to
dressy
send
each.
just I'm going to send out the link to everybody in the chat. So I'll put it out there and everybody will get it. Okay, that's it. Cool.
Alrighty. My screen is not switching over here real quick.
We can still see your screen.
You can? Okay, it's not switching to the next slide on mine
Oh.
here. I don't know what's going on. Huh.
Libby, this is Caroline. I have the PowerPoint up. Can I share my screen by chance?
Sure.
That would be great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Mine's frozen right now.
It's okay. I'm going to change presenter to Caroline.
Great.
Here we go. Sorry about that, everybody.
All right, let me get it up. I think we're on meals, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so for meals, we're going to have obviously the 3 meals a day. Some are fancier than others, so make sure that you're looking at what the agenda is, as well as that is on the convention page online too. So definitely be looking over that. That's how I got all my information as well. So just figuring out what meals you're going to be sitting down for, whether it's a boxed lunch, depending on the day, or as it gets dressier too. And another thing to note about these meals, use them as a time to kind of communicate with each other and to meet others. Like I have a meeting set up with Barbara Quilling, who emailed out to our province just saying, hey, I am the ritual specialist. If you want to sit with me for a meal, please do. And so me and her are going to plan to meet for a meal, and definitely use that time to really talk to people and meet people and gather more things that can be useful for your chapter. So yeah, that is what I have on meals. Next one would be educational sessions. So there's a lot to learn at these educational sessions. I remember them at the regional leadership meeting as well. And they're really useful, and you can really bring a lot of useful information back to your chapter. So make sure you are, whoever you're bringing, I know I'm bringing my Vice President of Standards, my Vice President of Academic Excellence, and then my recording secretary. And so really making sure they're attending sessions that are useful for their position, as well as you guys are all attending different sessions as ways to get to know people, as well as getting the most information you can out of each session. This is another way to just meet people as you go, so make sure you're attending as many sessions as possible. Jessica, I think it's Gendron Williams from Fired Up, she was at our last leadership convention as well, and she was incredible. I know she really was empowering when we were at the last one, and really got us going on just things to bring back for our chapter. So I'm really glad she's going to be there for all of us as well. Any questions on education sessions at all?
We don't. No. Jessica was
Perfect.
also at convention last time, if people are familiar with her. But yeah, she and some of her counterparts were at regional conferences last year. So maybe if she's come to your campus, hopefully have heard of them. But this is a great way to not only hear her speak, but you'll have a chance to maybe interact with her and chat with her. So I have a huge girl crush on her, so I'm sure I'm not the only one.
She is great. I didn't even know that I wanted to run for chapter president, and after just getting motivated by her, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So she is great. She really
Awesome.
is. So for business meetings, kind of what to what to expect. There's going to be 5 throughout convention, and you're going to sit with your province director and your other delegates from your province. So if you haven't met these girls yet, or these women that are province directors, and you've been emailing them all semester, this is a great way to meet them. I know I met my province director during one of these sessions when we were at the regional leadership conference as well. And it's just a good way to know who you're talking to and get to know them better, as well as the other girls just who are near you, everything like that. So there's going to be a mega chapter meeting, which includes all the microphones and a stage and real parliamentary procedure. I know when our leadership consultant came this semester, I was asking her a lot of questions about that. And I bet a lot of other chapter presidents who run meetings have questions on some of that too. So looking at how this is going to be run will be a great example for how to run it with our chapter meetings as well. And this is under the Marshall resources, under the Marshalls tab in our CAPA site. So if you guys want to print that out or take notes on it before we go to, that is a great way to get information on that. Other things included in the business meetings would be the State of a Union address, loyalty and alumni achievement awards, and then voting on the bylaw changes, which Libby, you may have to correct me if I'm wrong, but that is Thursday night that change or that voting will be happening.
Yes, Thursday afternoon. There's 2 sessions on Thursday.
Perfect. Sounds great. So then after it is voted upon, the corresponding slate will be presented, and then there'll be paper ballot voting. So the installation of new officers will happen at convention as well. So now moving on to what is being proposed and what this huge change is at convention if it is voted to be approved. When I saw that something big was going to be happening at convention, the way that I kind of decided to get involved and make sure that my chapter really knew what was going on, because I didn't want this vote being just on my behalf, but I wanted to represent my chapter and each of those chapter members and make sure they understand, okay, even though you might not be on CC and you don't understand what the structure is currently, maybe, what is the current structure? How will the proposed structure be beneficial to our organization as a whole, as well as to chapter members and all different aspects of the fraternity? So I chatted with Logan, who is the Long Range Plan Proposal Chairman, and she was incredible. We emailed multiple times, and I created this PowerPoint to help my chapter and to present to first my CC and then my chapter members on what these changes would be. And then I got all this information from talking to my regional director of chapters and my province director of chapters. So this is some slides from the PowerPoint that I had created to present to my CC and my chapter. This is kind of the current structure as you can see. So the ones with the stars by them hold the decision-making responsibility currently. And then the italicized ones are the elected persons. So you can kind of see where we are as the chapters, and then advisors above us. Then we go to our province director of chapters and our regional director of chapters, and so on. So if you guys look on the Women Who CAPA site, there's a great little presentation on how a membership chairman would go about maybe getting a question or something passed for recruitment, such as a grade exception, which I know I had to do for past recruitment. So this really, for our current system, you kind of have to go through your advisors, who then ask your province directors, who then ask your regional directors, and they kind of go to the director of membership there. So for this new system that is being proposed, it's a little bit different, where instead of a province director or a regional director needing to know all the information and subject matter of 18 different positions on CC, you're really getting somebody who has a specialist for each individual positions. And I know some of these specialists have become involved in our chapter this semester, and they've been very helpful in just helping us decide on certain things or getting additional help or resources, because they have the time to be able to do that, where the province director is dealing with multiple chapters as well as trying to figure out several issues for different positions or questions for different positions. So the proposed structure is going to be the chapter, then the advisors, then the content specialists, the content directors, and then the district directors and the fraternity council. So they hold the decision-making which is being shared by district directors and the fraternity council. Then the content directors will make decisions in consultation with the district directors. And this will come all from input from the specialists as well. So the specialists will know the different positions and who they're working with, which will be really nice. And then moving on to the key differences with what this new system will be that more of the focus is going to be on the fraternity's strategic growth and development, which is going to be great for our chapter. I know some people at the last convention that I have talked to were concerned with it just being a bit outdated for how far our organization has come, and these will really make it so the Fraternity Council can be visionaries for our organization, as well as being involved with chapters. They can make it so that they're thinking about our organization for years to come, where we are getting individualized help in areas that may be needed for certain chapters or just certain positions. I know coming into that transition for each position is difficult, and having a specialist that knows what that position has done and what that chapter has done is really beneficial to that position coming in. The province directors and regional directors are amazing at knowing everything about each position. But it's going to be nice to be able to have more volunteers with widespread knowledge and less time commitment per position. So they're really being able to have those positions as well as have opportunities to help in that position, but not having too much of their time taken up as well, because again, a lot of these people are volunteers. Moving on to the next slide, the goals and outcomes of this I've kind of outlined for each individual group in the organization. So the Fraternity Council will be a more proactive council. They'll be able to really move us into the future with just visions for what they want for our organization and how they can help, how they can keep us updated as we move along, and just really helping each individual chapter as well if anything arises. And then having more time to work on development for 10 to 20 years in the future, as I mentioned. The alumna, they'll have more opportunities for volunteering without the fear of a large time commitment, which I know right now a lot of girls that are coming out of their undergraduate career, as I've thought about too, want to be advisors or be very involved in volunteering, but when they see the province directors and regional director positions, some may be turned away because of the time commitment that they have currently. So changing this system would really give an opportunity to have more volunteer positions. So this is not only affecting us as chapter members now, but also as us as volunteers in the future. So just making sure that we are thinking about, okay, if I want to volunteer, if I don't want to be an advisor, but I want to be more involved than an advisor, then how do I be able to balance this time commitment with maybe having a job or going to grad school after college? So I know that was one of the concerns that I had and was really impressed with this proposed structure. And then the chapter members and alumna associations will have more specialized help and support, as well as they'll be able to ask questions and receive answers more quickly, easily, and efficiently. And this is going back to the membership example that I used with that video on the Women Who Kappa site, where they show all the different people that a membership chairman may have to go through to get something approved during recruitment time. And we all know that that recruitment time is craziness already for all of us. And just having somebody that is specialized in membership and really has a love for membership and wants to be in that position of a specialist or a content specialist or a district specialist. Just making sure that they're being able to help more efficiently and quickly for that position. So how it will work, this is kind of the current structure and the proposed structure. So in our current structure, we're organized in regions where we have 7 regions with 16 provinces, which make up our regional director of chapters and our province director of chapters, which I'm guessing you have all worked with having positions on chapter council. And then there are 16 to 23 chapters per region, which is quite a lot of chapters. The proposed structure will have districts. So they will have 14 districts and then 8 to 12 chapters per district. So district directors are still going to be very busy, but obviously they're going to be having their work more centralized for each position within chapter council, having those content directors or content specialists and district specialist. Is there any questions about the structure right now, or do you guys
We
want to go on
do. We have
to
one
the long
question before we get into our questions that we have gathered through the town hall webinars and things that we've just heard from undergraduate women, just making sure that we're communicating as best as possible. Ella, I'm going to throw this one to you. How does this proposed new structure compare to other Greek groups?
That's actually a really good question. So the Long Range Planning Committee actually did quite a bit of research when it comes to what the other organizations are doing. And hang on, I actually have some exact stats on this. But what I can tell you in general is that there are actually, oh, here we go. So there are 26 NPC groups, and really there are 26 different structures. There are a couple of groups that have structures really close to ours. Define You is actually the closest, but Theta and Tridelt both have long-standing governance models, which is the model that we're talking about moving to. And if it's any indication of what, sort of the volunteer experience is like across the Greek organization, there are actually 5 to 6 NPC groups that are voting on structure changes this summer at their convention. So there are even a couple more that are going to be closer to what we're proposing we move to. Once those changes occur, and you assume that those all pass, there will be 17 to 18 that will be in a similar structure to what Kappa is proposing. So towards the end of the summer, we'll likely be in a situation the majority of NPC groups will be in some form of a governance model, which is what we're looking at.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions before we jump into our frequently asked questions? Okay, let's go into the first one. Go ahead. I think this one is for Ella. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you finding that Greek organizations?
Right.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have a question. I guess a follow-up question from how does this compare to other groups? Are we finding that Greek organizations with our current structure are also looking to switch?
Yes, so there are 5 to 6 of them that are voting on board changes this summer. So, in my mind, that's very indicative of the changing tide in what the organizational structures look like for Greek organizations. So at the end of the summer, assuming those pass, 17 to 18 of the 26 would be in more of a governance model, which is what we're proposing. So based on those stats, I would say yes, that a lot of them are moving towards what we're proposing.
Cool. Okay, we'll move ahead. If we have any others, we'll answer them later.
Sure. All right, so why are these changes being proposed? So one thing that you guys will get to experience at convention is the resolution process. And you might have seen this if you went to any of the regional meetings this year. But basically the membership, any of the voting delegates, so that includes alumni associations, chapters, committee chairman, council, that sort of thing. They all have the ability to propose a resolution at convention. And essentially what those resolutions are is proposals to fraternity council for the fraternity to review certain areas of operations or certain suggestions from our membership. So in 2012, there was a resolution at convention that asked Kappa to look at our current fraternity structure and to evaluate the demands on Kappa volunteers. So the original reason these changes were being proposed is that the convention body asked Kappa to go and do an assessment of what our current fraternity structure is. So that was the origination of it. Shortly after that convention, there was a task force appointed in January of 2013, and that task force met a variety of times and did a lot of research on other NPC organizations, like I just mentioned. We looked at those successes and failures. We worked with some of their Greek industry organization experts and consultants. And Fraternity Council made sure that the task force committee itself was made up with a really wide variety of backgrounds, both within Kappa. So we had women with a lot of chapter support experience and alumni experience. But also to make sure that the women on the task force had a variety of career backgrounds, because there's a lot to be learned from organizations even outside the volunteer industry. So we had everybody from teachers to business professionals. And that's the committee that came together to come up with these changes. And once our recommendations were reviewed by council, they determined that we should move forward with a vote at convention, and the document changes, so the bylaw and standing rule changes that are required to implement the structure, that's what's going to be voted on at convention. So that's the genesis of all of the recommendations that we made, and that's why those changes are being proposed.
Awesome. So I think the next two questions are mine. The first being, how will this new structure affect chapters, and will this disrupt chapter operations? I, like Maggie has said, I see this new structure as really being a positive change for chapters. You're going to have more fail-safes in the sense of you'll have someone who can directly help with membership, academics. So if chapters are specifically struggling with, academics or recruitment or just general educational programming, the new structure is going to address this in a positive way. The other thing to consider too is these women are all volunteers, and we all know sometimes life happens. So I think having more people in place will also sort of allow for a fail-safe. If your membership specialist has a family emergency, then her content director can step in, her district director can step in. So you'll also have a little bit more help for these women so that they can make sure they're taking care of personal matters as well. Will this disrupt chapter operations? I want you all to kind of see this as like a CC transition. I feel like last year I traveled as an LC, and I can definitely tell you many transitions can be rough, but I see that we are very prepared for this. We have seen this coming, so know that there might be a couple bumps in the road getting this structure up and running, but this is something that we are ready and prepared to handle and to really figure out what's going to work best with this new structure and ironing out any bumps. And then the next question, how will this affect day-to-day life? Once again, it's just going to give chapters extra support and focus on the issues you're struggling with, but also really just to make sure that you all are feeling supported, and also your advisors, and making sure that your advisors feel supported as well, and they're getting the training that they need. Great, Libby, I think this is you.
Awesome. So chapter officers and being better supported with this change. So currently, in a perfect world, every chapter officer has an advisor, but I think we all know that that's not the truth. That we have many chapters who don't have a lot of advisors, or a small handful of advisors are covering all the positions, and it can be a lot for one or two women who have jobs and families and other things going on to handle. So having specialists that are trained in all different areas of chapter and association life, this is going to benefit the associations as well, will be so much better. You'll have a philanthropy specialist, an academic excellence specialist, a ritual and heritage specialist, and some of these have already been implemented this past year. Standards, ritual and heritage, membership. If you don't have an advisor specifically, this is someone who can help you work through those things rather than always reaching out to your province director. Maybe she's not as well-versed in membership as she is in other areas of chapter life. So every officer is going to have a specialist to at least one specialist to work with, but probably more likely she'll be working with 2 or 3, which is awesome. And she'll be working in tandem with that specialist with her advisor. It's almost like an advisor for her advisor. And, looking at how we can train our volunteers better, this is an exciting time where volunteers can do something they're really excited about and that they love, and so that they can help see chapters flourish in that specific area of chapter life that maybe they enjoyed as an undergraduate.
All right. This is Ella again. I think the next question is mine, and this is, what are the disadvantages of keeping our current structure? Simply, it's the opposite of everything that we've just said, but let me frame it up for you a little bit. We've talked a lot about the pressure on the volunteers that are in the organization right now to hold positions like PDC and RDC. And there are a couple of reasons why those positions have become increasingly difficult. With the evolution of the modern woman, you see women going into a lot of commitments in their life, everything from work to family to other volunteer organizations. And it really limits the amount of time that women have to volunteer for a lot of these jobs, even though they love Kappa. And so compounding that lack of availability potentially with the increasing complexities of the university requirements and risk management and the speed with which we know you guys need answers and help, it makes it for a really dangerous recipe to have women that have less availability and you need them more, to be honest, and so does your university. And imagine being trained on every single chapter council position and trying to be an expert in all 18 of them. That's basically what a PDC, for instance, is expected to do. Not necessarily by Kappa, but right now any chapter officer that reaches out to her with a question, you expect her to have, some information about your subject matter area. So trying to train those women who are volunteers and have other things going on in their lives is extremely difficult to make sure that not only that they know a little bit about everything, but that there is consistency across the country. So if you're talking to a province director in one area, for instance, she may interpret something different than a province director in a different area. So having these content specialists that are held together by content directors in the future will ensure consistency that we're not seeing today. And one just interesting fact that I think really hits this home for me, if you look at the research out there around women who volunteer, just in general, not necessarily even Greek organizations, just volunteer organizations across the board, women give an average of 50 hours a year. So if you think about that, that's about an average of an hour a week or 4 or 5 hours a month. We currently are asking our volunteers to give between 20 and 200 hours a month. Literally, province directors are spending 10 to 20 hours a week. Regional directors, council members, 20 to 30 hours a week. Imagine trying to do that on top of a full-time job. So thinking about, what might fall through the cracks or what emails might not get answered or the support that you guys need, with our current structure, we're really, really limited on our ability to support our chapter women. So in my mind, those are the key disadvantages of keeping our current structure.
Awesome. So what are the benefits for chapters? There are just so many, and you all have already heard a lot, but I think one of the big things is taking advisors into account. So for chapters that have a full advisory board, the specialists are going to be sort of the advisor for the advisors. They're going to be able to give extra help and information to those women, extra training, and just be a person for them to go to if they have questions. So the advisors then will be able to turn around and support their chapter members or their chapter officers even better. For some chapters, and I'm sure many of you know who you are, typically maybe in areas that don't have a lot of Kappa alumni or in areas that are sort of in the middle of nowhere. I know I went to a small liberal arts school in literally the center of Kentucky, so our advisor support wasn't as great, or they were commuting in from Lexington or Louisville. So the specialists are just going to be able to be that extra layer of support for chapter officers. I can tell you when I found out I was Marshall, when I went to find my Marshall advisor's information, there was only a mailing address, and this was in 2013. So it'll just be that extra layer of support for those chapter officers who also don't have that advisory support. Another thing to really keep in mind with this district model, the alumni are under the same umbrella as the chapter. So it's not a province director of alumni and a province director of chapters. It's a district director who is over the alumni associations and a membership specialist who's working with both. So if you're thinking about programming, senior programming or new member programming for ritual, when we're trying to bring in alumni for our various ritual ceremonies, you're going to have that extra layer of knowledge from these women who are working with the association so that they can help tie together those pieces. They can get alumni more involved with the chapters instead of having this big divide because they're under different umbrellas. Additionally, it's just going to give you more focused attention. So if you think about it, if a PDC is working with so many different chapters, if she has like 3 to 4 chapters, she's juggling different schedules and trying to keep in mind, well, this group just transitions then this time, but this other group is going through recruitment at the same time. Instead, you're going to have a leadership development specialist who's able to work just on those officer transitions. A membership specialist who can just help with membership and recruitment and things like that. So it's just going to give extra support to the chapters and really just focus in on some of the areas that need to be lifted up.
Okay, so myth versus fact time. We have heard a few murmurings that advisors are feeling perhaps that they're going to be replaced by specialists, and that could not be farther from the truth. We will always need chapter advisors. They are our boots on the ground. They are our most valuable resource, especially with our chapters, because we know that for the majority of the time they're close by. They have a good pulse on what's going on. They're there to support you. I've advised for a chapter, and it's such a rewarding. It can be challenging at times, but it's certainly rewarding. And we know that our advisors are, love just seeing our chapters thrive and do well. And it can be hard when they don't have all the resources they need to help that happen. Specialists, as we've said, will be that extra layer of support. I feel like we've reiterated it a lot. They will be trained and can help train the advisors. They can help advisors challenge them to maybe help the chapter overcome some areas that they have never been not as strong with, or areas that they're still strong with, or a chapter that's doing really well, challenging to keep up the great work and to continue to be excellent. And for our chapters that maybe are struggling with different areas of chapter life, this is a great way that they're getting that more specialized support that they've needed or craved. And it's just not enough with maybe an LC visit or a CAPA trainer visit. All those things are still going to occur in the new structure. They're not going away, but this is just more hands-on know-how people who can help make things happen for your chapter in real time. So.
All right, and I think the last question then is mine. This is Ella again. What will happen if this structure does not pass? So the biggest thing that will happen if the structure does not pass is that we're going to likely continue to have a shrinking volunteer pool. There have been a lot of specialists that have been appointed already and that are already helping out with some of the workload, but it doesn't change the fact that right now those women at the province or regional level still have the volume of chapters or alumni associations that they're supporting, and that they're still responsible for the full range of chapter functioning. We'll also have the gap that Caroline was referencing between our chapter women and our alumni women, because the PDCs right now are different than the PDAs, and there's not a lot of overlap to bring those organizations together. So the specialist positions may continue. Ultimately, that would be up to the next fraternity council to decide. But fraternity council would then need to reassess a new direction as the current challenges that we've talked about with our volunteer organization would not be going away. So a little bit of TBD on that front, but we would certainly need to revisit and figure out where to go from here. Functionally, at convention, if the structure doesn't pass, a convention will proceed in a similar fashion. The nominating committee is coming up with two different slates. I'm sure you remember slates from your election process with your chapter. They're going to have one prepared for the new structure and one prepared if the structure doesn't pass. So convention will basically continue as is process-wise, but we would be electing under the old structure.
So, okay, we have some questions that have come in throughout this. So chapter presidents have always known that they could go to a province director for questions or advice, going to their province director or regional director. So who would they go to now in the new structure? Ella, do you want to maybe answer that one?
Sure, of course. Depending on what chapter officer you're talking about, they would likely still continue to go to their advisor, but from there they would go to the specialist that covers their area. So each of the chapter officers, president kind of asterisk aside, each of them will have a specialist within their district that covers their area. Chapter presidents, depending on what the issue at hand is, may reach out to a specific specialist. If they're helping the VPS with some standards issues, for instance, you may be working directly with your standard specialist. But ultimately, the chapter president's immediate escalation point beyond the chapter council advisor and advisory board chairman at the local level would be the district director, since they are the central point that oversees all operations and all of those specialists on her team. So that would be how questions and issues get escalated through the hub.
Okay, so this is a clarification on PDC, RDC versus district director. So what's going to happen to that PDC, RDC, and will they become specialists or what? Like what does that look like?
Many of the PDCs have already taken on specialist positions. A lot of them are already kind of doing double duty as some of these specialist positions have been rolled out. Formally, the PDC roles would end after convention. But all of those women, the ones that have already not joined one of the specialist teams, they're all going through a process with an organized process with fraternity headquarters where they fill out a volunteer interest form. And so they're identifying what subject matter areas they would like to focus on. And as we round out the rest of the teams, we'll be pulling from the group of women that are interested in filling those positions. So to summarize, the PDC and RDCs, PDCs would be done after convention. RDCs, their terms are already finished at convention, so they weren't up for re-election anyway. But that's what would happen to those two roles.
Okay, next one. Are advisors trained in the position that they volunteer for, and what would the training difference be for content specialists? This person has found that the volunteers in her chapter / area are much more involved and interactive when they are engulfed in the chapter's life and operation, not just one part. Their advisors solely have one role, rarely interact or give us support. However, those who volunteer multiple roles give us a lot of support. So I guess what does that training look like for an advisor versus a specialist is the crux of the question.
Sure, I'm happy to take this one. So the advisor training programs that we have in place right now it's not terribly formal. There are various resources out there. A lot of them are actually created for the individual chapter officers, like the webinars and that sort of thing. We do have a team that goes out and does, they can do advisor trainings. They don't happen on a regular basis, though. They need to be solicited really by those advisors and ask for the resources to come and visit and do a training. I think, though, that local connection that you have and those advisors that know a lot about a lot of things, those women aren't going away. And if anything, they can learn more and dive deeper on each of those areas as needed with each of the specialists. The specialists are going to be trained one-on-one with the content director. So that's going to be a very robust, very formal, very ongoing training program. Most of the specialist teams right now, for instance, get on the phone for a conference call at least once a month with their content director where they talk about any issues that are going on, clarifications in policies, procedures, that sort of thing. So they're getting very specific ongoing training, where the advisor training it will continue kind of as it does now. So those women also have those same roles that you're used to. You guys have anything to add?
No, I think that's awesome. I can't remember who I just deleted that question, but if you have another clarification on that, please write in. Next question, the process of grade exceptions during recruitment was mentioned. If the new structure passed, what would that process look like?
That process would have, go ahead.
Okay, so in the new bylaws and standing rules, there is now, it's going to be up to the membership specialist to make that decision in consultation with the content director of membership. Is that correct, Ella?
Yes.
Okay. And just so you all know, it's typically a little bit more of an involved process as it is right now, going to the RDCs. So this is once again one of those areas where it's going to become much easier for you. You're already going to have that relationship with your membership specialist, so you're going to know who to contact, and it's just going to be a little bit closer to you all.
And the intent of having the specialists in each of the hubs is ultimately that a lot of the decision-making ability that right now is held at a fraternity council position actually gets pushed down. So it's very likely that your membership specialist will actually be able to grant those exceptions without having to reach out to someone else first. but the content director in that area is going to set those policies and procedures within her team.
Okay. If anyone has any other questions, we're at our last question that I'm going to answer. But if anybody has anything else, please feel free to write in. There's no such thing as a silly question or stupid question. I know this is incredibly complex, and I haven't been reading out people's names, so there's no embarrassment if you just need a clarification or want to know. But our last question is, will this be implemented immediately? Yes, if this structure is passed through the bylaw changes on Thursday afternoon, yes, it will go into effect at the end of convention. I know our long range plan task force has been working incredibly diligently with several other fraternity council, fraternity headquarters staff to figure out a transition plan and have a transition team in place, so that once we all fly home from San Diego, July 1, we're hitting the ground running. We're not wasting any time, and that we can make sure that we're prepared and ready to go, because we know that some of our chapters are starting to recruit in about 4 weeks after convention. So we want to make sure that we are ready to go when they have questions and they need things answered in real time. Is anything to add on that, Ella?
Yes, there's actually a specific one-time meeting scheduled for right after convention, where all of the new council members, all of the district directors, and all of the content directors are going to get together in person and map out the transition as well. So very quickly after convention, they're going to have a mutually agreed upon across the board rollout plan for this new structure. And I'm very close with the regional director of chapter team, for instance, and I know that those women have all pledged to stay involved through the summer and help with the transition. So I think rest assured there are going to be a lot of people focused on making sure that it's clear for you guys, and that that we don't miss any important steps along the way.
Okay. We have a few other random questions, but one thing I did want to add, going back to the business meetings, I know we talked a little bit about that earlier, but just as a reminder, even if you have other women coming from your chapter who are not voting delegates, they are still expected to be at the business meeting. It's not optional. Every single convention attendee is expected to be at those business meetings, whether you have a voting ability or not. So just reminding our women, it's not time to sleep in or go to the pool or anything. Just come and be present and just soak in all the things that are happening in Kappa, so you can go back and talk to them with them at your chapter.
Just to add on to that quick, at the business meetings, when we do vote on this, we won't be approving it as a yes or no vote. We will be voting on each standing bylaw or, the bylaws or standing rules each individually. So when you're looking over that packets and you see the changes that are italicized or underlined or crossed out, we're voting on each individual one. So it's not just a yes or no.
Thanks, Maggie. That was a great clarification. Yes, it's not just a yes or no and move on. Will there ever be a time during convention when we can wear casual clothing, such as t-shirts, shorts, or leggings? Yes, after the formal dinners, and it's kind of like hangout time. There's some socials that'll be happening and things. That's kind of the casual time. So probably like 9 o'clock past, when it's kind of people are vegging out or hanging out or getting to know people you've met at convention. Receiving information about the educational sessions during convention. Abby, I'm glad you asked this, because it'll be in the guidebook, which will be launched very soon. You'll see it on social media. But definitely once you get to convention, you'll get a program with all that information, and the guidebook will have it as well. So be sure, once it's launched, you can download it and take a look and start planning out, and you can make your own schedule in there. Guidebook is a really cool app. So I definitely recommend you take a peek once it's up and running, which should be really soon.
Libby, can I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
If you are, really just struck by all of the different opportunities for educational sessions, be sure to talk to someone you know and who knows your chapter on what you should be attending. So if that's your PDC, or if you see one of your former LCs, just sit down and talk with them and see if they have any recommendations for sessions you should attend as well.
Absolutely. Great. Another great question. Abby's on the ball tonight. Good job, Abby. Not dumb questions at all. But when the dress calls for white, does that mean white shoes as well? Yes. So the like footbed could be like tan or cork or something, but the top needs to be white. So like I just was at Target last night and I saw like the cute little sandals and it has like the swirly thing for the foot, like the T strap. That's white. That's fine as long as the footbed can be tan, but they should be, the majority of them should be white, and not like ivory or cream white. um, Other questions? Flight confirmation travel schedules. If you need to know anything about that, please email Kappa headquarters, kkghq@kkg.org, and we can get you the right information. Where is this recording going to be located? We are going to upload it to the chapter president page. We will upload it onto YouTube, and we will share it other places, or maybe the province directors can mail it out. But hope we should have it up running within the next 24 to 48 hours. Another question, is there a place we can look to see what we need to wear at each part of convention? That's in the, Ella, remind me, is that in the program of like what we need to wear for the entirety of convention? I'm not sure exactly where that's all laid out. That's a great question.
In general, it's business casual during the day, I would say as a general rule. I'm checking right now to see if it's on the website, so bear with me. Let's see.
Just to add in, there's like an agenda on the convention site as well, and that kind of lists out what we're doing throughout the day, so that might help with outfits as well. Just knowing if it's a business meeting, what to dress for, and each such event.
Yep. A good rule of thumb is it's business casual throughout the day, dressier at night, and then kind of like off hours is your casual time. Thank you for those who wrote in on convention websites. Another suggestion, if you're still trying to divide and conquer with your officers on what things to attend, just make sure you're checking with your PDC. Hopefully if you had your chapter review call for the year, definitely rounding out with them as well as your advisor and your LC, your former LCs of what to go to for sessions. They'll probably have suggestions for you of what would be great to attend. Model initiation will be a good one. Always good to have a ritual refresher. I'm trying to get through all these questions. A bunch came in. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, there's actually, if you look at the convention page and you go under general info, there's a what to wear link.
Oh.
Which talks a little bit about more what to wear at each of the different types of sessions.
Awesome.
And one note on the white, and I don't know if you guys said this before, a lot of women will just bring one white dress and wear it twice. So don't feel like you need to bring a bunch of white dresses. People will tend to go back as long as there's time between the sessions and change. Or you can bring a dress with you if you want to, but just because you have to wear it a couple times doesn't mean you need a bunch of them.
Yeah. It's okay. Nobody will judge if we wear the same pretty white dress on Thursday and then on Saturday. It's okay. The days are long. Nobody's going to remember, I promise. Last question. In the proposed revisions packet, how do we know what is being changed? Ella, will you explain those changes? I know that there's some things italicized or underlined. Will you cover that?
Sure. And forgive me, I believe, and maybe you guys can write a note really quick to Libby and let me know. You guys have all received packages in the mail, correct? That show what the bylaw changes are going to be?
Yes, I think I don't have one in front of me, but I think all the changes are underlined, like in wording or whatever it refers to. I don't have one in front of me though, unfortunately. But I think you can also, you can look that up on the Women Who Kappa site.
And on the packet that we should have been sent for chapter presidents, they are crossed out if it's the old bylaw or standing rule, and then the new changes for them are underlined. So you can see what the old bylaw or standing rule was and what it will be changed to, depending on what name. If it says RDC, it'll be changed to whatever that position will now be doing.
And Libby, do you know where on the Women Who Kappa site that is, so we can direct them to that document?
I was just looking that up right now.
No? Okay.
Uh,
But it sounds like each of the chapter presidents was sent this document.
it was, yes. So if you go
Okay.
to the Women Who Kappa site and then click the big idea, the long range planning task force report is listed there. And in that report is the proposed bylaw changes, as well as volunteer position descriptions and a bunch and other justifications and clarifications. It's very long, incredibly helpful, but definitely worth the read if you have a long plane ride like some of us. But you can, I think it's about 20 some pages, but you can download that and that includes it. So one person had written in that they didn't have that packet because they are not the chapter president. You can find that there, but I will reach out to you separately as well. Anyway, so well, pardon me. I think that's it for tonight. Oh, yes.
Just to make it even easier for you, once you find the convention website, there is a link called Delegate Details, and under Delegate Details, there's information on the 2016 proposed revisions. You can just download them right there.
Dang, look at that. Jeez. Good thing. Awesome. So Gabby, I'll email you to help you get there. But yes, we can get that information to you. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I really appreciate, oh, look, we're pulling it up. Perfect, right here. So follow along in case you have other things you want to take a look at. Any last minute questions before we wrap up for tonight? So as you can see, Ella is scrolling through the proposed revisions are there. It's a PDF. You can download all of it. Everything you'll need to know is in this PDF. Just be sure to print it out and bring it with you to make notes and otherwise. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Maggie, Ella, Caroline. Thank you, all of you who are busy bees this summer. I really appreciate you coming and joining us tonight. For learning everything you need to know for convention. We are really excited to see you in 2 weeks. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us directly or just kkghq@kkg.org. As the webinar closes, a survey will open on your screen. Please be sure to just respond to those few evaluation questions. Your feedback always helps make sure our webinar training events are as beneficial as possible. And if you have any other comments or suggestions, whatever, please email education@kkg.org. As I said, this webinar is being recorded so that we can get this uploaded as soon as possible. So keep a lookout for that. We might just email the link out just so that we can get it to you as fast as possible. So thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thanks.